Tonight, what we're going to look at is things that I don't do when it comes to photo retouching. Yep, the title of the series is Meatloaf inspired, of course. But for years, as you've seen the controversies over magazine covers and things, people made, well, photographers and the people who did the retouching, when I say people, made modifications to the way the person looked. So they truly didn't look like themselves. So the image you can see on the screen, you can see how it's bowed in at the sides. Now, this was an old trick that was done with warping that's possible within the uh, lens correction section of Lightroom. Now, let me show you what this actually looks like. So you have this distortion amount that you can distort the image that you see. Now, that's what she looks like. Now, you might say, why would you use image distortion? If you take a look in here, when you're using a lens, there is certain characteristics about the curve of the glass that are known. By putting the profile in here and doing these profile corrections, you are adjusting for that curvature of the glass so that you get an image that the eye would see, a flat image. Now, if I were to take the distortion down here and make changes to it, you won't see that same bowing and the same issues that we had before. You also won't notice a change in her. Just this little bubble effect around it, slightly. Now, what you'll notice is it flattens out the image just a bit, but it doesn't really change her shape. Now, we're going to look at a couple of tools. And again, these tools, the reason they have these modifications to them is that photographers have asked for them. They use them. Now, this is not a disparagement of the tools themselves, because they're going to make what photographers say they want. So we'll take a look at our first one here. And you'll notice there's an adjustment here called Slim Face. There's another adjustment down here called Body. I can change the shape of her body using a slider. I can now slim out the face. This is not the same person. That's how she started out. That's how she ended up. That's not her. And you would see this on certain magazine covers, which is extraordinarily disturbing to me. That why would you take this beautiful woman and do this to her? Maybe in your mind, this is what you want her to look like. But as a photographer, your job is to capture the person. So we'll just take this slim face off and put her back the way she was. We'll go down here to the body and change that as well. If it'll release, which it doesn't seem to want to do. Okay. All right, we're kind of back the way we were. There's also an abdomen slider in here, where if you'll watch the center part of her dress, you can see it getting thinner. Now, the fun part about this is it's not understanding that that's not her abdomen, it's just fabric. And this is something that you will get with certain tools. They'll have issues from time to time. So let's go down here and revert everything back to the original image. And that's what she looks like. Now, while I'm in here, in defense of these tools, there are certain things that are inappropriate to use. For example, this portrait bokeh. To me, the background's a little bright here. I have to first give it how much I want the bokeh to be. Then I go down here, background, and I can take that brightness right away. It doesn't take rid of all of it. It does take out quite a bit of it. And I can change this amount, which will make it more. And you'll see that also in the amount is this focus and defocus, how big the brush is and the softness and the strength of it will actually change the way that this looks. See the depth correction, we've pulled her out a little bit more. We can change the edge correction a little bit. And it separates her from the background. So there's sometimes when you can't get exactly what you want in the shot, and there's tools to help you modify the image to get that. Let's go back to the original. The eyes, for example. There's a bunch of things in here. Again, I would not enlarge a person's eyes. But there are certain things that you can adjust for, especially, again, if you have a good shot, but it's just the angle's a little off. You can take out dark circles, which is usually a good thing. It's not something that the person has as part of their normal day-to-day. So when I look at corrections, I look at things that are not the norm for the person. For example, a blemish on the face might be there today, might not be there tomorrow. Let's remove it. However, if it's a mole, if it's a distinctive feature, I might want to, depending on what the other adjustments have done, I may need to back that off just a bit so that it's not as prominent, but I would never take it away because it is part of that person's face. But when we make adjustments to things like contrast and things that might make it look more pronounced than it normally is. And you can see there's a bunch of options that this tool has. Bring the face here. I don't know, we're going to see a lot. Yep, you see the enlargement happening there from the eyes, and you can go absolutely obscene with it. Going to the cartoony. But other things like whitening them just a bit, which you may have seen pictures like this where a photographer has gone completely overboard and the eyes look like they're glowing because they whitened them too much. So when you're doing things like that, let's take these back for right now. I might whiten the eyes a little bit. Again, this is something that's transitory. Dark circles might be because you just couldn't get any sleep last night. Not a normal state for you. It's not a normal part of your face. So we make adjustments and allowances for those kinds of things. Now here's another one, another tool. As you can see, there's all kinds of different presets over here and what they're going to look like. But as we take a look at these, we can change the tone. But you can see that it found her face. This also has a face contouring to it. So we can change the shape of her face. That's not the same person. She's not going to look at a picture of herself and go, that's me. I have seen photographs modified to such an extent that people wouldn't identify who that person is. And just to remind you, that's what she looks like. That beautiful rounded face is what she looks like. But with the tool, you can distort the face. Now, there are other things in here that are helpful. Whitening the teeth just a little bit. Sometimes lip sharpening, but that comes down to is just making the makeup look a little better. This particular tool has a bunch of ways of making blush and makeup and things, which can also be used to smooth out the tone of the skin. Again, if it's not something that is normal, then why leave it into the photograph? You want the photograph to look like the person on her best day, the way she would normally look. And then there's all kinds of presets that can change colors and things. Tools can be very helpful. But again, see her eyes? So if we pop in on her eyes again, and we bring this slider across, right, we've brightened her face. And again, some of this could be that you just had a bad angle. So it threw a little bit more light into her eyes and got rid of some of the darkness that you see over the top. But look at how bright her eyes are. This is unfortunately not an unusual thing, but it just seems to be too much. So I turn off the eye enhancement. All right, much better. Still got the eyes around, but the eyes are not whitened as much. Again, we can turn this down so that we get just a little bit of whitening, but not a lot. Still looks like a bit too much to me. Working again, having an auto red eye. If you're familiar with flash photography, which I don't typically do, I either use lights or I put filters on the flash, so I don't get the red eye. But that was that bounce back. You'll see them quite a bit when people put flash Instagram post pictures up of their pets, and you get that flash from the back of the eye, and it shows up red. This will take it out. There's ways of putting catch lights in the eyes. Now, if you'll notice her eyes, let's really zoom in tight here so we can see it. When we take a picture of somebody, we bounce light into their eye. By having the catch light on, you'll notice this spot right here, which has been displaced on this side. So this is not a good one to use here. Even though it has her entire face, it's got the catch lights a little off. You can choose the type of lighting and things. Regardless, the goal is to put a little light in the eye so it looks like there was a light source and not natural light. It's a little trick that some photographers might want to do. Again, my goal is You should look like you. And the only thing I want to do is remove things that aren't there all the time, like a blemish, maybe a dark circle. Anybody should be able to look at that photograph and go, yep, that's the person. They shouldn't be modified in such a way that they don't look the same anymore. So this is the first part of the series. You will get some bits of what I will do, and you'll get a lot of bits of what I just will not do and how I will not modify your image in such a way that you don't recognize yourself. I don't think that's fair to you, and it's not fair to me to go through and make you look differently than you are. People are beautiful. We suffer from a lack of confidence in how we look. My job is to make sure that you realize how beautiful you are, how confident you are, and how strong you look. So I hope this one helps you to see that in some instances, certain retouches are appropriate, but changing the shape of the body or the face, absolutely not. And I'll talk to you guys next week.